Baghavata is one among the 18 Puranas. Srimad Baghavata was written by sage Vedavyasa. All the other Puranas were also written by sage Vedavyasa. Srimad Baghavata is famously said as the fifth Veda. It mainly tells about the history of Lord Krishna, but many Vedanta facts, information and Vedanta Tattva were incorporated along with the mainstream story. It has 12 cantos. The actual Bhagavata Purana starts from the second canto. The first canto is mainly about the background of Srimad Bhagavata. The background of Srimad Bhagavata is King Parikshit, during his last phase of his life or during the last period of his life, he requests Sukadeva to tell about that thing that is to be heard, remembered and repeated during the last phase of any person's life. For that, sage Sukadeva answers, it is about Lord Hari. He is the all-pervading and omnipresent individual consciousness as well as the universal consciousness that is to be heard, repeated and remembered throughout the life or during the last phase of his life, any person's life. So that's the background of the Srimad Bhagavata. Srimad Bhagavata, that is the Bhagavata Purana, sage Sukadeva heard or learned from his father, sage Vedavyasa. Sukadeva is the son of sage Vedavyasa and Parikshit is the son of Abhimanyu, who is the son of King Arjuna of Mahabharata. Chatusloki Baghavata is the profound 4 verses which comes in the second canto, chapter 9 of Srimad Bhagavata. They are the chapter 9 verses from 32 to 35. These 4 profound verses are said as Chatusloki Baghavata. It gives the essence of the entire Bhagavata Purana. It tells about the creation, existence and dissolution in a capsule form. The entire essence of Srimad Bhagavata is found in Chatusloki Baghavata. The background of Chatusloki Baghavata is, during the initial stages of creation, Lord Brahma, it is not Brahman, it is God Chaturmukha Brahma. He requests Lord Vishnu to tell about the creation or manifestation and the reality. For that, Bhagavan Vishnu tells these 4 verses. So, these 4 verses are said by the Bhagavan himself. And so it is very important, very profound. And King Parikshit asks many questions to sage Sukadeva. One of his questions about creation, existence and dissolution, he asks, what is the reality? What is the reality behind this existence? So King Parikshit asks Sukadeva about the reality and this manifestation. For that, sage Sukadeva quotes these 4 verses or repeats these 4 verses. That is the background of Chatusloki Baghavata. It comes in the second canto, chapter 9, verses 32, 33, 34 and 35. Actually, these 4 verses are said by Bhagavan, and sage Sukadeva repeats these 4 verses or quotes these 4 verses to King Parikshit. Now let us see the brief meaning of Chatusloki Baghavata. The first verses, Aham eva samevagre Nanyatat sadasat param pasyataham yadedascha yovashishyeta sosmyaham. Meaning, I as Brahman existed even before creation. Lord Vishnu says, I as Brahman existed even before the creation. During the period of existence, that is in this creation, I am existing as Brahman. Even after dissolution, after pralaya, I will exist as Brahman. So I as Brahman is existing before in this creation as Brahman. I existed even before the creation, and I will exist after pralaya, after dissolution. So I as Brahman is existing in the three periods of time and in the three states, that is the Jagrata Avastha, Swapna Avastha and Sushupti Avastha. Nothing else other than I as Brahman is existing in this universe. This Lord Vishnu says to Chatusloki Brahma, God Brahma. The second verse of Chatusloki Baghavata is Ritirtam yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani tad vidyadhyatmano maya yatha bhaso yatha tamaha. What appears as real is not the reality. It is superimposed on Brahman. What all appears is due to the Yoga Maya. It is the Yoga Maya of Lord Vishnu. It is just like the reflection of an object. The reflection depends on the object. Just like that, this creation or these forms or objects, they do not have any substantial reality other than Brahman. It is just like the darkness disappears by the first appearance of light. So just like that, this creation has no value by the knowledge of Brahman. So what all appears is just an appearance due to the Yoga Maya, but the reality is Brahman. That is the meaning of the second verse. The third verse is Yatha mahanti bhutani bhudeshu chavasheshvanu pravishtanya pravishtani tatha deshu na deshvaham. The meaning of this is this appearance, it is just not real. All the forms or all the objects we see are the combination of the five basic elements. They are in this combination without losing their elemental nature. Just take our form, our body. It is the combination of the five basic elements, that is the Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Apa and Prithvi. For example, take an element water. Even though it is in this combination, in this form, it does not lose its elemental nature, that is its liquidity. Just like that, I as Brahman created these forms. All these forms I created. And I enter in these forms as Atma. But my elemental nature is not changed by it. So Lord Vishnu says, I as Brahman enters in these bodies without being affected by the combination of the body or by the vibration of the mind. So I remain inside this form without changing my elemental nature. That's the meaning of the third verse. And the fourth verse is Yatha vadeva jignasyam tattva jignasu napmanah anvaya vyadirekhabhyam yatsyat sarvatra sarvadha. The meaning of this verse is, even though the forms undergo transformation, even though they take different effects, they undergo different effects, I as Brahman is not changed. The forms undergo many change. They undergo transformation. But I as Brahman is not changed. I exist in my original, without losing my nature. I as Brahman exists in the 3 periods of time and in the 3 states without any change. So that's the meaning of the 4th verse. The first sloka or verse tells about the Brahma Lakshana, that is the nature of Brahman. The second sloka tells about the nature of Maya, Maya Lakshana. The third verse tells about the difference between Atma Brahman and Anatma, or that is the different forms, body and mind. And the 4th verse tells about the result. What is the result of this knowledge? So these are the brief meanings of the 4 verses of Chatusloki Baghavata. Now let me repeat the 4 slokas of the Chatusloki Baghavata. Aham eva samevagre nanyatat sadasat param pashyataham yadedascha yo vashishyeta sosmyaham hritirtam yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani tad vidyadadmano mayam yada bhaso yada tamaha yatha mahanti bhutani bhudeshu chavasheshvano pravishtanya pravishtani tata deshu na deshvaham yathavadeva jignasyam tattva jignasu natmanaha anvaya vyadirekhabhyam yasyat sarvatra sarvadha. So these are the 4 profound verses of Chatusloki Baghavata. Chatur means 4 and Sloki means 4 slokas. And this Chatusloki Baghavata comes in the Srimad Baghavata, 2nd canto, chapter 9, from verses 32 to 35. This Chatusloki Baghavata, you can say, is the capsule of the entire Vedanta philosophy, because it tells about the non-dual nature behind this duality, behind this creation. Thank you for watching.